All right, cats and kittens, welcome to Herms and I's next discussion as we continue on talking about Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, the anime. And on this video, we're going to start talking about the Android Saga, or the Cell Saga, or the Artificial Human Saga, whatever you want to call it, the Artificial Human arc. It's all one big arc, from when Trunks shows up all the way until when Gohan kills Cell. It's one big arc. Actually, it really ends when Trunks goes back to the future, and then we have the Other World Tournament, which we will be discussing very soon. But on this video, we talk about the first part of the arc. Actually, we're going to go all the way into talking about Gohan's SS2 transformation. And then next time, we're going to cover everything after that, including the Other World Tournament, with lots of behind the scenes and cool tidbits from Herms. So, hope you guys enjoy it. If you've missed any of our discussions, I'm going to leave a link to the playlist down below so you can check all of them out. And yeah, let's get to it. Obviously, Herms, we can agree that Frieza was just used to get Trunks over. Frieza was brought back just to show how strong Trunks is. That's pretty much the whole purpose of him coming back. That's why Toriyama reused him.
Yeah, essentially, just as a way of saying, like, oh, here's the old strongest guy, the strongest bad guy yet, and then here's a guy who instantly defeats him, and then he instantly defeats him, and then warns him about some really strong people who are going to be showing up soon.
Which were originally 19 and 20, but they fixed that in the anime.
Kind of, yeah. So this is an old story, but so when Toriyama was originally doing this in the manga, he had Trunks specifically mention 19 and 20, and then when 19 and 20 show up, he had at the time his former editor, Kazuhiko Torishima, who was his editor from all of Dr. Slump and then the start of Dragon Ball up until the end of the 23rd tournament. So essentially the pre-Z portion, you could say. But he was no longer his editor. He was instead doing, I think he was at V-Jump at that point, but he called Toriyama up specifically to complain about how he didn't like these designs. He's like, it's just a fat guy and an old geezer. And so because of this, that's when Toriyama says, oh, okay, I'll bring in he designed 17 and 18, and he just made up the whole thing. It's like, oh, no, Trunks, I wasn't talking about those androids. I was talking about these other androids, which in the manga, it's a total retcon because he mentioned the numbers 19 and 20, and then later he's like, I've never heard of these 19 and 20 guys before in my life.
Well, wasn't the idea that, what happened was Yu Kondo was the one, it was Yu Kondo who told him that you got an old man and a fat guy as the main villains?
No, that was Torishima.
It was Torishima.
19 and 20.
That's right.
Yeah, his former editor called him up, and then so Toriyama's like, oh, okay, our make 17 and 18, and at that point, his current editor, Kondo Yu, he was the one who complained about 17 and 18 because he said, well, they're just kids.
And then Cell came along.
Yeah, and so then he's like, well, all right, I'll come up with Cell, and then Kondo Yu, he had the same reaction where it's just like, well, I didn't like his first forms, and then he made his second form, which he really didn't like. And so finally, Toriyama liked the second form, but his editor didn't. And then so finally he came up with his perfect form, and that one was a hit. And so that's what they stuck with as the final villain. Yeah. Although I think the fact that he did have Cell revert to his second form for a bit there at the end was just his way of sneaking his favorite form in.
How did you feel about the extra kind of, I guess, romantic buildup of Bulma and Vegeta, like how he's training I don't think that was in the manga. He's training in the gravity room, and then she's in there, she's taking care of his body and all that. Do you think that was a good little idea to kind of build up that little, romantic?
Yeah, I think it fleshes it out really well. Whereas, Toriyama's explicitly said many times he doesn't do romance. Like, he'd never depict that stuff on his own. And it is, in the manga, it's kind of ingenious how he sets that up, in that it's like, well, Trunks, he introduces the idea that Bulma and Vegeta get together, but he says it's like, well, that won't be for like a year or two now. So, like, it's like, I don't have to, it doesn't make sense now because it's in the future, and so you can't tell, like, it, and then he just skips straight ahead 3 years to when they've already become a couple. So it's like he just avoids having to ever show the buildup because he introduces the idea before it actually happens in the present timeline and then skips to after it's happened. So he goes right over the actual period where they develop a relationship. But I do think the way that they fleshed that in the anime, they did it fairly skillfully.
the driving episode, I didn't like it during my recent rewatch. I know it's a very polarizing episode. I thought it was just dumb, bro. It was just I thought it was a waste of time, honestly.
Let's see. I liked it, but I think I didn't like it's because I see people cite that as like the one good filler episode.
Yeah, I disagree with that completely.
And
I think some of the Gohan stuff early on was some of the best filler ever.
Yeah, but let's see.
I mean, one of my favorite filler episodes is Gotenks versus Fat Buu. I love that episode, man.
Okay, let's see what number.
That one? That one's episode 125.
Okay. So I gave that 3.5. So okay, that's like a good episode, but not like a great episode.
Do you remember when they first released that here in North America? How the only way you can get that episode is if you bought that Burger King tape. Do you remember that? Do you have any memories of that?
I guess I wasn't really. Let's see. Yeah, I don't really remember that, but I probably was around. I mean, obviously I was alive at that point, but I wasn't. I probably wasn't. Like I would have been probably a fan, but probably not wrapped up enough to like specifically be buying it on DVD I don't know. Yeah, so essentially no is the answer, but
yeah, no, that's what happened, man. They released.
Well, yeah, I've heard about that. I've heard about that. I just don't. I was around at the time, but not, I guess, aware enough of that kind of stuff to remember it from my own personal experience.
It was a bonus VHS tape for that Burger King. For those who don't know out there, a lot of young people, the only way you can get those episodes, now later on they put it on the DVDs, but I mean for VHS tapes, we're talking about the 90s here, you had to go to Burger King and get the exclusive tape, and if they didn't have it, you never got to see that episode. Just there's people I know, Jake, bro, that have the series on tape and are missing that episode, and I'm like, just upgrade. No, it's like, who knows? So the early Android stuff, okay? Herms, I like to divide the Cell Saga up into 3 acts, right? Act 1 is Trunks arriving all the way until 17 and 18, destroy the Z Fighters. And then Act 2 picks up when Piccolo goes to get fused or merged or whatever. And then that ends when Cell becomes perfect. Or I'm sorry, when Cell announced the Cell games. And then Act 3 would be the end. Could you sense that 3-act structure here, or was it not something that really hit you?
I mean, you could divide up like that. I guess another way is just everything up until everything, like you could just do like the first set of 19 and 20, the first set of androids, and then 17 and 18, and then just like Cell's first form, and then his second, and then kind of just the Cell games. But there's a lot of ways you could divide it up. But I think the biggest shift is just when they introduced Cell in the first place.
What did you think about Cell as a villain at that time?
But I really like I like the way he's introduced, and like there's all the mystery when he first shows up.
Yes.
And there's a lot of it's just the whole creepy sci-fi vibe, and just with his design and the way he absorbs people, which is very creepy, and just the mystery of the finding the ruined, abandoned time machine, which is very just and like, oh, where is this extra one come from, and all that stuff, and then.
So you like the whole mystery stuff, right? Like
yeah,
I do too.
And then when he revealed, like when he gives his autobiography, I mean, obviously that kills the mystery, but I like the story behind him. Like I actually kind of think it's ingenious the way Toriyama just flat out explains the mystery. Whereas, I mean, you'd think like the conventional wisdom would be like you'd want to draw that out as much as possible and just give like bits of information here and there, but I think that can actually get kind of tiresome. Like, well, I guess with the classic example these days is Lost, where they just kept, piling on mysteries, and then it didn't really get wrapped up very well. Whereas with this, like Toriyama, he does wrap it up like very explicitly. Like, well, here's the explanation for all of these mysteries, which even Piccolo literally says, like, okay, that solves everything now.
Well, that's classic Toriyama though, because think about it. In the Piccolo Daimao arc, Krillin dies, and we immediately have Roshi explain who he is. Raditz shows up, we get the whole backstory on Goku. What do you call it? For Frieza, that was built up more. But I mean, like for Cell, we have this. For Buu, we have Kaioshin explaining to them, Bobby D, this and that, in that scene where they're flying. So
yeah.
I just call it a classic Toriyama info dump. He tends to do this. Like, that's something that he kind of does, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, but they, with Cell at least, they do have a little. There's a little longer period of mystery than we really got with like Raditz, at least, or Piccolo. And,
Yeah.
But okay, so even though he's not quite as cool once you know everything about him, like I really like the part where he's like where he's absorbing people, and it's not that he's a big threat now. Like, I mean, he is powerful, but he's explicitly not yet strong enough to take on 17 and 18 directly. And so the challenge is, like, how do we stop this, like, growing menace before he does become powerful enough to just destroy us all? And so I do like that, because we don't get that quite in any other point in the series. Like, all the other villains, they're introduced to us as stronger than anyone else.
Yeah,
generally.
this guy actually goes on a journey to get stronger.
Yeah, like I mean, like, you have characters like Frieza who they turn out to be stronger than you thought they were.
Yeah.
But Frieza's thing is he had all that power. He could have at any point gone directly to his 100% full power. So in a way, like, the fact that he didn't is kind of just him being an idiot. Whereas Cell, legitimately, he has to work to gain greater power. And I like that aspect. And even in, like, later in GT with Baby, it kind of was that same thing again. And then in outside of Dragon Ball, in One Punch Man, there's Garo, who is that same kind of idea again. Someone who starts out, decently strong, but the thing is just how he gets stronger and stronger with each, just over time, until he becomes like a really big threat to everybody. And then I guess in a way we've got that with Black now as well, where he gets stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
So I like seeing the villains themselves grow rather than being presented off the bat as just like fully formed.
And then later Buu arc, we saw that a little bit too.
Well, yeah, and I wouldn't like it if it was all the time, but I like that as a bit of rarity.
Did you think that the absorption of the human beings putting Cell so much stronger than Piccolo was contrived? Did you think that was kind of weak storytelling? Because I know he absorbed a lot of people, but I just feel like regular humans, it just seems like to take that much of a jump in power. I don't know.
Well, I like that because it just pays off the fact that they're going around trying to stop him from overtaking him, and then at the end it's like, oh, we failed. He has overtaken us now. So it's like it confirmed that danger of just that he's gone too much, that he's grown to the point where they can't handle him anymore.
I'm going to talk to you about another contrived scene in a minute, but Piccolo versus 17, most underrated fight in the series? I would say yes.
Well, I wouldn't say it's underrated because I frequently see people say that they say it's the best in the series.
Really? Because I love that fight, but I've seen people always ignore it on their top list. It's always like, Goku Vegeta. It's always, Goku Kid Buu. Like, I love that fight, but I'm saying I've seen the opposite that you've seen. I've seen people forget how great that fight was. Especially the part where they're punching each other in the chest, going right, like, you know what I'm talking about? When they go, like, really deep into each other with the punches? Like, that was awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a generation thing, because I just remember like back when I was getting the series, I was always cited as like one of the top fights.
No, I agree. It's totally a generation thing, because I was in the series the same way in the 90s, and it's the same thing. I saw it back then mentioned more than it is nowadays. Like, people forgot about it. Now, Ten Shinhan doing the Kikowo, holding back second form Cell. Is this another, like, contrived? I'm just telling you my opinion. I thought it was kind of contrived, because he hasn't been important in a long time, and when we're first introduced to that move, right, we know that move could kill him. That's how I was back in the 22nd Budokai. At this point, he nails like 10 of them in a row or 20 of them in a row, and somehow Cell like isn't, it just keeps coming, and Tien is not dead yet. Like, what the hell, man? Does that bother you at all?
No, well, I think that's what's great about the scene, is that you don't expect him to be able to do anything, but he does by using this just technique that's like really not overpowered, like it's pushing himself to his limits, and still he manages to make a difference, even though all he can really do is just hold Cell back for a few seconds.
Well, in the manga, it made more sense. In the anime, it was like boom, boom, boom,
it's
boom.
Another thing where, because the anime draws it out, it seems a lot less reason. Like, we kind of skipped over the whole 5 minutes thing, which in the manga doesn't make sense. it's a lot more reasonable in the manga. In the anime, of course, it's completely absurd.
Yes.
And here again, it's like in the manga, it makes sense that Ten Shinhan would be able to just hold out, just be able to pin him down for just a little while.
Agreed. But
whereas
in the anime,
it's like an episode or so.
It's like 10 minutes. You know?
Yeah. And I mean, if you want to be technical, okay, so his technique, it's not the old useless Kikoho. It is
Shin Kikoho.
Yeah, Kikoho, the new version. And so technically, this isn't really clear in the series, but what's supposed to be happening is that it's essentially a rapid fire version of the Kikoho. So it's like, it's not that he's using the attack many times in a row. It's that the nature of the attack is to fire these blasts one after another. Which, I mean, you kind of only get that in a certain video game, like Attack of the Saiyans for the DS. That's explicitly like how the difference is that you have the regular attack where it's only once, and then the Shin Kikoho version where it's the same. It's just repeatedly again and again.
Yeah,
but I don't know. But anyway, I don't have a problem with the idea that he just trained and improved the techniques so that it's like so he
doesn't die.
It's a much better technique, and they do actually say like that he would die. Like Cell's like, oh, it looks like you'll die anyway, but I'll kill you just for the hell of it. And then Goku saves him, and I guess because they give him Senzu or whatever, that's what saves his life. But otherwise, like if he was just left on his own, he probably would have died.
So
which is what we saw with Nappa as well when he used it against Nappa and then just keeled over.
Yeah, which I thought was a great scene. We talked about that last time. I think we talked about it. I don't remember. So the Room of Spirit and Time. Why didn't they use? It's just again. I'm not gonna turn this into the whole Toriyama plot hole discussion, but why the hell did they not use that like many times before? I feel like I know you can only use it like
they used Goku. They say he used it when he was a kid training for the tournament.
Yes.
But
why not for the Vegeta and Nappa fight?
I mean, maybe they did. Like in the manga, we don't really see much of their training with Kami, so you could say that they did use it then. I mean, it is kind of, I guess, taking it back there, it is kind of crazy how more powerful all the Earthlings get with just a year of training. Like where they go, where they start off a lot weaker than Piccolo and Goku, and then they kind of leapfrog them so that they're all stronger than Raditz, which is one of those things. Like, I think people who start with Z, they kind of just accept that. Like, they don't even think about it because to them it's like for them this is the start of the whole series as far as they're concerned. So it's like everyone is like at level 5 essentially, and so like in any RPG where you just start off, and when you start leveling up, it's like you get a lot of levels quickly. So for them it makes sense in that context. But when you look at it like in the context of the series, it's like what. It's like just midway through the series, everyone gets this huge power up that's kind of just glossed over. But anyway, but in the Android arc, like, well, you could, it is kind of just a convenient thing where it's like, here's this thing we've never mentioned before, but they say like, no one's ever managed to stay a full year in there before now.
You go
which
crazy.
I guess, yeah. So I guess the idea is at this point the main characters are powerful enough and like mentally and physically they can kind of tough it out.
Including Gohan, who's still a child, but hey, it's Dragon Ball. Also, this arc...
That's probably why he becomes the Great Saiyaman. He goes... He after the fact kind of goes crazy.
He legitimately... That's why he didn't train. He legitimately lost his mind. He's like, I trained for a year in that hellhole. I'm not training. Plus, he went through puberty during that time. See, people forget, between Cell and Buu, Gohan went through puberty, and I think training might have been the last thing on his mind, but maybe I'm just comparing him to me, so there's that. Now, Herms, this arc, the Cell arc, start to finish, I've called it the arc of big mistakes. Now, obviously, in Dragon Ball, we have people making dumb mistakes over and over and over again. I don't think it's more prevalent than here in this arc, right? We've got the ability to stop Dr. Garo from ever making the androids. Bulma's like, we should do this. Yes, that would prevent the problem. Not kill him, put him in jail or something. No, can't do it. We want to fight. 19 and 20.
Which, I mean, people criticize that, but that is kind of explicitly the theme of this arc is that we want to fight the toughest guys, even if it's dumb. That's pretty much it, right? I mean, they're not like it's kind of a cliche to say that like Goku's not Superman, but I mean he's not like explicitly he's concerned with testing his abilities. He's not at the end he doesn't want the planet to be destroyed, but that's his main priority isn't the safety of the planet. It's just being the best he can be and testing himself. And I mean that's explicitly what they say. It's like, well, we could stop him now, but then we wouldn't get this challenge. And
well, exactly. They're not even thinking straight, Herms.
And I mean the contrast between them and, well, Trunks, who is he's not that type of character. He's not a martial artist, really. He's concerned only with stopping this threat and making the world peaceful again. And so you do get the conflict between him and Vegeta over whether to make Cell perfect. And they do kind of gloss over, like, I don't know if he ever learned that they had the opportunity to stop Garo early and just kind of didn't take it. But, I mean, obviously that's something that Trunks probably wouldn't have been in agreement with.
I mean, go ahead, bro.
But I think it's kind of easy. I think people criticize this overtly because I think a lot of people kind of have a wrong idea about what this series is about at the end of the day.
I agree with you, and that's kind of the whole point. Is that it's still. I mean, no matter what, okay, regardless of what the series is about, logically, it's a dumb decision. But one thing I do love about what Toriyama's doing here is, and this is where I agree with you. People don't understand this, okay? Is that yes, what these characters are doing, Vegeta, even Gohan later on when he doesn't finish off Cell when he could have, that's another one right there, another dumb decision, wound up costing him his dad's life. Like, yes, these are all dumb decisions, but I like the fact that it's Goku and Vegeta, the purebloods, who are the most obsessed with fighting and getting the strongest opponents, whereas the more hybrid ones like Trunks and Gohan are more trying to, you know, not fight. And you have that in the series when Gohan's telling Cell, you know, I don't want to fight you, blah, blah, blah. And then 16 has to tell him, you know, he can't be reasoned with. I mean, we know all that, but I like the fact that the human characters are the ones that are most human, whereas the Saiyans, or the Saiyans, however you want to pronounce it, they are the ones that are the boneheads. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like...
But that's what they are.
I mean, they make dumb decisions, but the decisions they make are perfectly in keeping with their character.
Exactly.
Like that's who they are. That's like, it makes sense that Vegeta would allow Cell to become perfect. It's obviously not a good decision. It's explicitly shown to not be smart, but it's in keeping with what we'd expect of him to do.
Not just that, Herms, but one thing I love, again, I think that, Herms, bro, I think with this arc, Toriyama had a lot of really good, subtle writing. I think that's where he really, I think, stuck out. Because with this arc, I love the fact that later on, the roles are reversed, where Gohan's telling Cell, you don't want to piss me off. And Cell's doing everything in his power to piss him off, and it winds up costing him. Because why? Because Cell has Vegeta's cells inside of him, and thus he's going to be triggered by the same things Vegeta's triggered by. I thought that was brilliant, dude, that essentially every mistake that every character makes in this series, even though it fits with their character, ends up biting them in the ass. And we wind up having, you know, Vegeta get knocked out. We wind up having, you know, Goku die. Like, all these things I think are classic. I think it's great writing, honestly. I really do.
I mean, I think it's almost like people look at it as if it should be like a video, like they think the characters are in a video game that they are trying to win. It's like, oh, they shouldn't have done that. That, you know, that's like,
well, I mean, but they're right.
They're
right. They shouldn't have done that, but you're thinking of it from a logical human perspective, not from a warrior
they're looking
race.
at it. They're looking at it as like a puzzle to be solved. They're not, rather than like, I don't know. I think it's easy to almost look at, what's the word? Like almost backseat quarterback, I guess you could say. Not backseat. That's a mixed metaphor.
You're talking about it's a mixed
Monday morning quarterbacking.
Monday morning driver.
Yeah.
There you go.
Exactly. Anyway, perfect analogy. But okay, so
yeah, no, we agree.
The thing is, and even at the end, and in keeping with that, like even when Gohan is just refusing to finish Cell off, he does that. In his case, he doesn't do that because he wants a fight, because he doesn't want a challenge, because at this point Cell's not a challenge for him. He keeps Cell alive because he thinks that Cell deserves to suffer more. Like, that's what he says. And so it's like, it's just the logical extension of Gohan's personality as he has a stronger sense of a stronger sense of justice than Goku or Vegeta, who aren't really concerned. Like, that's why he becomes a literal superhero. And so it's kind of like so when he snaps, that sense of justice becomes twisted. And so he's not thinking about like the greater, like what would be like a logical thing. He's thinking morally. It's like, well, this person deserves to be punished, so I'm going to punish him, rather than like, well, I should probably just kill him now before something bad happens.
I like how you kind of flubbed up, bro. In your episode 167, you said you are watching Cell TV. It's you are now watching Cell TV. That's what you were going for.
Yeah, from the Mad TV.
From the Mad TV, yeah. Cell, come on. I totally saw that, bro. It's just that you forgot the now part.
I might have had to leave. I might have had to leave that out just because of Twitter character restrictions. Actually,
that might be the case too. Yeah, you're right. Cell Saga filler. Okay, the girl named Lime, the return of Tao Pai Pai, the Gohan birthday. Your thoughts on that? Not in the manga. Were you happy to see Tao Pai Pai back? Do you think it was a waste? And what do you think about the Gohan development? What do you think about it?
Let's see. So I think the Lime episode wasn't as good, but the Gohan's birthday episode I thought was really cute. So I thought that was just one of those I think the phrase "slice of life" is overused, but I think that was a good example of that kind of thing. And then let's see, the Tao Pai Pai episode with the puzzles. I thought that was just pretty funny and pretty good animation too. So I liked those two episodes on their own.
It was silly, yeah. And you've got now. Did you think they could have utilized Tao Pai Pai better? I mean, he's not really a threat anymore. I mean, he's just
no. I think that they did that perfectly. Where he's like, at this point, just beyond a joke compared to the main characters.
What about the line where Cell says he can destroy a solar system or whatever? People have dissected that line. People think that they say that means that Cell can do it in one shot. I don't think he ever says he can do it in one shot.
Well, he says that he's gathered enough energy to blow the entire solar system away. So I guess that leaves room for interpretation. It's just
Herms, man. People have dissected that line for years, bro, thinking that he's actually stronger than he actually is.
Well, I mean, I don't even know, like, what would it literally mean to blow a solar system away?
Like 9 planets at once? Is that what he said? The moons?
I don't think it's really worth. I think at the end of the day, it's just Toriyama thinking. It's like, well, Frieza, he was the last villain, and he could blow up a planet. So this new, like, what's the next step up from a planet? It's a solar system. So, or have Cell say he can destroy a solar system, and he's not really thinking things through, like, scientifically or anything like that.
Yeah, she's just talking shit. Now, Dragon Ball Z episode 179. All I'm gonna say is 2 words: Studio Cockpit. Now, you're going to know what I'm talking about, but some people might not. One of the best animated episodes we've ever seen, and you actually said in your thing what the show is always like in your head, and that is so accurate, bro. You're very funny because I read through what you're saying, and I don't know if everybody does. I think people imagine Dragon Ball being just like this, with this level of quality, this level of animation and action every week, and it's not. But when it is, it sticks out so much that we remember it. Because that episode is a classic, man. The Warp Kamehameha is a classic.
Yeah, and so apart from Dragon Ball, I'm also really into Doctor Who, and there's this old line that gets kind of there's this thing that well, actually, okay, long story short, they say that the memory cheats, which is it was used to say, one of the later producers of the Doctor Who during the 80s, when fans would say, like, well, these newer episodes are not as good as the old ones, and this was back in the 80s before you could actually go re-watch episodes on just, there was no
streaming service.
There's literally no streaming, literally no VHSs at this point, generally. Like, anyway, so he said the memory cheats. In other words, like, you may think, you only say that because you build these things up in your memory. So, yeah, I guess getting to that, it's like people remember the good animation days and kind of mercifully they forget the worse animation days.
And with Super, it's backwards.
And, yeah. And I mean,
do you think it could be a parallel universe, Herms? Do you think that maybe like the Berenstain Bears and Berenstain Bears, we've got the Mandela effect here, where in a parallel universe, Dragon Ball looked like One Punch Man every week? Because I want to live in that universe.
Yeah, there's no universe like that. I'm sorry.
No.
But,
you know about that, right? The Berenstain Bears Berenstain thing?
It's people who don't want to admit that they misremember things, so they invent alternate universes because they don't know about Occam's razor.
Yeah, and if you want to know about that, Google it. We ain't got time. So, episode 184, 5 out of 5. The big moment happens. What is it about this episode that makes that moment so special? Is it Nozawa's scream, which is some considered to be the best scream in anime history? I think it's up there. Do you think it's the music, Umne no Hi Tamashi no Tamashi, Spirit versus Spirit, the animation,
Tamashi,
or just...
never mind.
Wait, did I say it wrong? I said Tamashi.
Tai Tamashi.
Tai Tamashi. Excuse me. Is that, in your opinion, like, is that, is any particular reason why, or is everything combined?
Well, yeah, I think just the music and the acting and the animation and the little dove, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but looks cool. And yeah, I did kind of struggle with this score a little bit because it's like, it's all about that thing at the very end of the episode, and everything leading up to that, it's good. It's not bad, but it's like, it's mostly just them fighting the Cell Juniors, and then at the end it's 16 talking to Gohan, and which I also love that his 16 speech as well. And I mean, anyway, so it's like that thing. It's a very bottom heavy episode, you could say. It's like, it's just because of the ending that it's considered a classic. And so I did wonder if I should give it a perfect score. Even I was thinking like, maybe a perfect score should only be an episode where like it's just great beginning to end. But at the end of the day, I'm like, well, if I don't give this a perfect score, I'm not going to give it, like, anything else I give a perfect score, people are going to be like, well, how could you rate that over this? So I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't get hung up on my own arbitrary numbers too much. Anyway, so yeah, I consider this one of the best episodes in the series.
Better than the manga? Well, I mean, it's not fair because the manga doesn't have the music and the screaming. Right.
Yeah, and it's in general, like, Toriyama does go kind of quickly over these moments. I guess it is just the nature of comics where it's kind of up to you how long you want to linger on any individual panel.
That's right.
But yeah, like even the original Super Saiyan transformation with Goku, it's in the manga, it's just very quick.
Yeah.
Not much beating around the bush. And I do think, I mean, I kind of like both versions for their own ways. Like, I kind of like the fast version, but I also kind of like the dramatic, drawn-out version. Now, well, okay, I guess I should... Some people do, like, kind of criticize, like, just why is it, like, 16? Why is 16 the one to trigger Gohan?
I think people misunderstand that. I really do.
Yeah, I think it's like the straw that breaks the camel's back, essentially.
Yeah.
And... I think there's something ingenious about how odd a combination it is. Like, these two, they haven't met before, really. Like, they haven't really spoken.
But Herms, I thought they were best friends. I mean, the original English dub said they were best friends. I'm confused.
Did they really? I didn't even know that.
The original English dub of that scene is so bad. Like, I don't care. Look, I'm not going to turn this into a dub bashing because that's not what I'm doing here. But that scene, Herms, bro... He's like, 16, you were always a great guy. All you cared about was nature. And I'm just sitting there like, how the fuck do you know that? You don't even know this guy. Like, he's going on and on and on. And he's like, I'm not going to take it anymore. And, of course, the song's not there, which, of course, hurt it. Just, that's literally one of the worst scenes in the entire series, the English dub. They completely ignored the subtlety, the build-up. It was just so, like... spoon-fed that it was almost insulting.
Yeah, but what I do like about the 16 anyway is that they may not know each other, but it is kind of like they're almost like kindred spirits who haven't met before, and so that's kind of like what I think makes it interesting, is that it's like this brief moment where they do meet before one of them dies.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it was Mr. Satan who threw the head. So, yes,
yeah.
Mr. Satan saved the world, folks. I mean, at the end of the day, he helped. Not as
well,
much as in the
he is Earth's true savior.
Yes, that's a fact. I thought it was you. Ha! Well, Herms might not be Earth's savior, but he's definitely one of the saviors in our fandom. Anyways, thanks so much, guys, for checking out this discussion with Herms and I. More of these to come. We got another one coming your way to discuss the rest of the Cell Saga, the end of the Cell Saga, and lots of tidbits and lots of stuff to cover. So thank you, as always, for supporting Geekdom 101. Talk to you down the road.